Want to feel the validation of being good at a video game? Maybe you would like to flex on your friends and strangers in said video game.
I too am extraordinarily humble.
Or maybe you'd like to be accused of buying all of your accomplishments. Well, Marks of Excellence do all these things and more. In this video, you'll learn how they work, and if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how you can leverage this information to improve your Marks of Excellence without ever needing to get better at the game. So let's get to it. To see what the game says about Marks of Excellence, right-click on any vehicle in your garage, tier 5 to 10, click Statistics, and then a little page will open up, and you want to go to the Awards tab, and then you want to hover over Marks of Excellence. And it says, to obtain 1, 2, 3 Marks of Excellence displayed on the gun, the average damage caused by the player and average damage caused with the player's assistance must be higher than the results of 65, 85, or 95% of players in this vehicle for the past 14 days. It goes on to say that a player's average damage is updated after each battle. Only the 100 recent battles are counted. And then at the very bottom of that window, it tells you for this vehicle what your percentage at. So it could say your current ratio is higher than the ratio of, for me, it says 79.43% of players who fought in this vehicle for the past 14 days. Your first mistake is to think that anything written in the game client is both accurate and complete. Well, then if the game client isn't accurate and complete, then how is my average actually calculated? I'm glad you asked. Your average damage is actually calculated with what is called an exponential moving average. To calculate this, you'll need your previous exponential moving average, which is your average before your match. Then you'll need a weighted multiplier, which is how much the new match will move the average. In this case, the weighted multiplier K is calculated as 2 over n plus 1, where n is 100, which is 100 battles. So K effectively becomes 2 over 101. Finally, you'll need your combined damage from your match, which is your damage plus your maximum damage by spotting or tracking. Yes, the game looks at tracking assist or spotting assist separately, and it will only use the greater of the two values from your match. Putting it together, your current exponential moving average is equal to your previous exponential moving average plus K, which is the weighted multiplier, multiplied by the quantity of your combined damage for the match minus your previous exponential moving average. All right, so let's look at a couple of examples so it makes a little more sense. So if, for instance, your current average is 2,000 damage, and let's say in the next match you did 3,000 combined damage, then it would be 2,000 plus 2 over 101 times 3,000 minus 2,000, which ends up being 2,020. So your 3,000 average damage improves your 2,000 exponential by 20. Conversely, for a bad match, if you have 2,000 average and you did 1,000 combined damage for that match, then you would have an exponential of 1,980, which would lower your average by 20. This is also why you can't earn a Mark of Excellence after only a couple of matches. If you start from 0 and have 2 consecutive matches of 2,000 combined damage, your exponential moving average is only going to be about 79. So what can we learn from this exponential moving average? Well, essentially, your most recent match is weighted 2 times more than the match before it. That's what the 2 in K equals 2 over 100 plus 1 means. This exponential function makes the average a lot more responsive to the changes based on your most recent matches. It also means you won't need 100 matches to get rid of that one bad match and have it stop impacting your average. The more matches you play after a bad match, it's exponentially weighed less toward your average. It's also a double-edged sword. One good match can balance out 2 previous bad matches, but one bad match can lower the gains from 2 good matches. Alright, so you know how your average is calculated. Let's look at how your average damage and your consistency will influence your mark progress. The next few examples have a theoretical tank where the server thresholds for the marks of excellence are at 65%, you have 1562 combined, 85%, 2043, and at 95%, 2283. Our baseline player can consistently earn their first mark, but struggles to 2-mark their tanks. This tanker in our theoretical tank will average around 2200 combined on a good game, with a standard deviation of plus or minus 400. Their potato rate, or the rate at which they have a bad match, is roughly 1 in 5 matches, or 20% of their games they do poorly. A bad match is characterized by 500 combined damage with a standard deviation of plus or minus 300. Let's take a look at both a higher and lower average combined damage. If our same player managed 1 more shot of damage on all of their good games, then their average damage would increase to 2500, and we'll see that eventually they will hit that 85% mark. However, if the same player does 1 less shot of damage on their best games, we can see that they'll even struggle to hit that first mark of excellence. This demonstrates even 1 shot of damage on average can make or break your grind for a single mark. Let's take a look and see how consistency will influence our mark progression. If we take our baseline player and move his potato rate to 10%, meaning that only 1 in 10 games is a bad match, then we can see that he will eventually consistently hit the 85%. However, if we increase his potato rate, instead of 1 in 5 matches, it becomes 1 in 3 matches with a potato rate of roughly 30%, we can see that he will eventually get that first mark, but it's going to be rough. So what happens if we take our baseline player and combine both a higher consistency and a higher average damage? Well, if we improve our combined damage to 2500 and our potato rate up to 10%, we can see that we'll eventually hit that 3rd mark of excellence. However, on the other side, if we lower our average damage back down to 1900 and increase our potato rate, or lower our consistency to having a bad game every 1 in 3 matches, then we can see we won't even hit that first mark of excellence. What we can really learn from this is that to earn 3 marks of excellence, you need to play exceptionally well and very consistently. Since we're talking about an exponential moving average, streaks can actually have a massive impact on your mark progression. Achieving a mark can really just be about getting 1 good run of consecutively great matches. However, a bunch of bad matches can massively drop your moving average. So if we take our baseline player and let's say he has 15 great consecutive matches, well, we'll see that shoots their average way above the 85 percentile mark. However, if we take our baseline player and shove just 10 matches that are really bad all in a row, well, that'll drop the moving average almost back to 65% and wipe out roughly 50 games of progress. These graphs represent a server average that doesn't change. However, we know the server average changes every day. The in-game text claims the server average is based on 2 weeks of historical data across every player for a given tank on the server. It then uses those EMAs to determine the 65th, 85th, and 95th percentiles for marks of excellence for everybody. While it's unclear how Wargaming calculates this, we do know that it does change, and we do know that the value is updated daily at server reset. These values are generally pretty stable. The only times they change a lot are during balance patches, such as the recent Progetto 65 nerf, or the buff to the Centurion Action X, or for tanks with a small number of players. Think PZ54 Alpha. Sometimes after long breaks, people will return to the game and see a large change in their mark of excellence percentage. During short periods of time, the expected values from the server change very little. However, over long periods of time, especially with balance changes, major updates, or server population fluctuations, the expected values can change dramatically. When you return and play a match, the mark of excellence is updated and then compared back to the server value. This is why you may experience a large jump or a large fall in your mark progress. Your overall exponential moving average may not change very much, but the server average may fall or rise by a wide margin, which is why your percentage can change so wildly. Hey, I saw what you did there. You just clicked the chapter button to fast forward to the tips part of this video. I've got my eye on you, Michael. Ugh. Michael here's the type of person to eat his dessert first, but for the rest of you, you're probably wondering, wait a second. Did you shave and did you change your shirt? Well, astute viewer, the answer is yes. The rest of this video was so dry and boring, I decided to refilm it months later. Yeah. Anyway, I said that my tips won't require you to get better at the game. And since there's only 2 parts to the marks of excellence progression, average combined damage and server average, well then logically we'll be anticipating the server changes and using them to our benefit. When balance patches hit the common test servers and you know ahead of time which vehicles are getting buffed and which vehicles are getting nerfed, this means that once the balance patch is released, those respective vehicles will have their server values change based on the improved or reduced characteristics. Now, if there's a tank that's getting buffed that you are close to earning a mark of excellence on, then you'll want to do is get that mark as high as possible before the patch. And then on patch day, you'll want to make the push for that mark. See, on this day, the vehicle gains its new and improved capabilities, but the server average still hasn't changed yet. So this means that you get to play a tank with improved capabilities while the mark of average is based on the pre-buffed state. But this also works in reverse. If there is a tank that is getting nerfed and you are close to a mark, what you need to do is, again, play and get your mark as high as possible before the patch. And then once that patch hits, do not play. That newly nerfed tank, you need to wait for the server average to come down to match the new tank characteristics. After around 2 to 4 weeks, go in and play 1 match. Your vehicle average won't change drastically from 1 match, but your current average was obtained when the vehicle performed better, and now it'll be updated to a server average that has dropped. What other times does the server average predictably change drastically? Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments. The final tip is optimization. While your gameplay remains the same, if you optimize your equipment, consumables, and crew skills, this can help improve performance. Shots that you would have missed now hit, locations that you would have been spotted, you now remain dark. If you want to begin to optimize your vehicle, the best resource I found is Skill4LTU's index page. Here you can find out what the top players are using for equipment, for crew skills, for field mods, all that good stuff. Just keep in mind that you need to change your playstyle to match whatever loadouts you're putting in the vehicle. Running optics, commander's vision system, and low noise exhaust isn't gonna help brawling in your mouse. Hey Mike, well, can I call you that? Did you find these tips helpful? What about everybody else? Did you learn anything new? Tap that thumb icon there to tell me that you appreciate my work, and maybe share it with someone you think could use that knowledge. Really, the best way to earn a mark is to just actually improve your gameplay. I can help there too though. You see, click this video over here to learn more about how to properly bush snipe. You know, just do it. Click it. It's less than 3 minutes long, I promise. It'll be useful. Right there.